COVID-19 recovery rate in India further improves to nearly 63%, a total of
by the government. I should not hear my voice. You can. No, but I am hearing my voice. Okay. I hope my voice is clear to the participants. Mr. Rajneesh Kumar, am I audible? Am I clear enough?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Now, the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic is unambiguously the worst health and economic crisis in the last 100 years during peacetime, with unprecedented negative consequences for output, jobs, and well-being. It has dented the existing world order, global value chains, labor and capital movements across the globe, and needless to say, the socio-economic conditions of large sections of the world population. The COVID-19 pandemic perhaps represents so far the biggest test of robustness and resilience of our economic and financial system. In the extraordinary circumstances that we face today, history could provide us with some useful guidance in respect of the role of central banks. Guided by the age-old wisdom summarized in Bajort's dictum that ascribes the role of the lender of the last resort to the central bank, the Reserve Bank of India has taken a number of important historic measures to protect our financial system and support the real economy in the current crisis. While the eventual success of our policy responses will be known only after some time, they appear to have worked so far. And that gives us a lot of satisfaction, and that inspires us also to take further measures. While reiterating our intent and dedication to steer the economy through the crisis, I would like to highlight certain key aspects of our policy measures. So what I propose to do is to sort of very briefly highlight some of the measures that we have taken, some of the approaches, our broad approach during the current crisis, and with special reference to the aspect of financial stability, because as you know, the central bank, while looking after aspects of reviving growth, supporting the measures being taken by the government in terms of carrying out necessary changes and announcing necessary measures in areas that are in the domain of the Reserve Bank. But at the same time, above all, the Reserve Bank is responsible for the financial stability of the country. And this is one area where I think the Reserve Bank and the financial institutions, and in particular the banks, will have to work in close coordination and in close cooperation to ensure the stability of the financial system in the country. Now, let me first briefly touch upon the monetary policy measures which we have taken. As you would be already aware, the RBI was already in an accommodative stance before the outbreak of COVID-19. And from February 2019 onwards, on cumulative basis, we had cut the repo rate by 135 basis points till the onset of the COVID-19. Now, consistent, and that was done mainly to sort of to tackle the slowdown in growth which was visible at that time, and we had elaborately touched upon it in our MPC resolutions. Now, consistent with this policy stance, when liquidity conditions, we had also kept them in ample surplus. The lagged impact of these measures was about to propel a cyclical turnaround in economic activity when COVID-19 brought with it calamitous misery, endangering both lives and livelihood of people. Given the uncertainty regarding the evolution of COVID curve, it was absolutely critical to anticipate the emerging economic risks and take proactive monetary policy actions of sizable magnitude using comprehensive range of policy instruments. The fast-changing macroeconomic environment and the deteriorating outlook for growth necessitated off-cycle meetings of the Monetary Policy Committee, first in March and then again in May 2020. The MPC has decided, as you would be aware, to cumulatively cut the policy repo rate by 115 basis points. So from February 2019, the total rate cut that RBI has undertaken is 250 basis points. Now, we also focused on liquidity measures. I would not like to go into the details of that. They're already in the public domain. They are known to you. But I would like to just say that both conventional and unconventional monetary and liquidity measures by the Reserve Bank were undertaken, and they were aimed at, number one, restoring market confidence, number two, alleviating liquidity stress, number three, easing financial conditions, number five, unfreezing credit markets, and number six, augmenting the flow of financial resources to those in need for productive purposes. The broader objective was to mitigate the risks to growth outlook while preserving financial stability. The liquidity measures announced by the RBI since February 2020 aggregate to about rupees 9.57 lakh crore, which is equivalent to 4.7% of 2019-20 nominal GDP. So about 4.7% of the GDP. That is the kind of liquidity measures which we have announced from February this year. Now, heading into the pandemic, the financial system of the country was in a much improved position, owing mainly to the various regulatory and supervisory initiatives which the Reserve Bank had undertaken. We had put in place a framework for resolution of stressed assets, the 7th June circular, and the various other measures that Reserve Bank had undertaken, in addition to implementing multiple measures to strengthen credit discipline and to reduce credit concentration. For 5 years between 2015-16 to 2019-20, the government had infused a total of rupees 3,08,000 crore in public sector banks. As a result of efforts by both Reserve Bank and the Government of India, the overhang of stressed assets in the banking system had declined and capital position has considerably improved. As per available numbers,
That was RBI Governor Shaktikant Das addressing the 7th SBI Banking and Economics Conclave, and he was talking of the measures taken by the RBI during the COVID-19 period. He also enlisted the liquidity measures and also the change in policy rates, and he is currently addressing the conclave. In the bulletin that follows, we'll get you the highlights of his address. He was talking of the measures that have been taken by the RBI to ensure financial stability during the COVID-19 times. And up next, we will take a look at the impact of COVID-19 across the country. The trend of progressive increase in the number of recovered COVID-19 patients continues. The cumulative figure of recovered cases among COVID-19 patients is 5,15,385. Consequently, the recovered rate is 62.78%. Now, there are 2,83,407 active cases, and all are under active medical supervision. At the national level, the case total fatality rate has further dropped to 2.63%. This is lower than the fatality rate observed in many other countries in the world. The total fatalities stood at 22,123. Despite a rise in coronavirus cases, the COVID-19 recovery rate in Delhi stands near 77.6%. Now, according to the Delhi Health Department, 84,698 people have recovered, which is almost 4 times the number of active cases, which stands at 21,146. As many as 2,468 patients have recovered in the last 24 hours, taking the recovery rate to 77.6%. The national capital witnessed 2,089 new confirmed cases and 42 deaths in the past 24 hours. While COVID-19 has a 2 to 5% mortality rate across the world, and in the absence of a vaccine for this virus, it may not be possible to bring the mortality rate down to zero. However, proper patient and facility management can lead to a reduction of mortality, which is exactly the strategy that has been followed in Delhi. Uttar Pradesh government has imposed a weekend lockdown in the state from 10 p.m. last night till 5 a.m. on Monday to check the spread of COVID-19 and other communicable diseases. The state government has permitted movement only for providing medical and essential services in the state. Now, this decision has been taken after reviewing the present situation of COVID-19 pandemic and for putting an effective check on it. All offices and markets will remain closed during this period. The central government team, led by Additional Secretary, Union Health and Family Welfare Ministry, Aarti Ahuja, visited Tamil Nadu yesterday and held a meeting with Chief Minister E. Palanisamy. The central team reviewed the steps taken by the state to curb the pandemic. It also reviewed the situation in Chennai, which is one of the hotspots in the country. The team was apprised of the declining trend in cases in recent days and the specific steps taken to check the spread of the virus. 3,680 persons were tested positive for COVID-19 in the state in the past 24 hours, while 64 people died yesterday. 4,163 persons were discharged yesterday, taking the total number of recovered patients in the state to 82,324. Over the last few weeks, the state has managed a good recovery rate of 61.7%. Tamil Nadu has recorded 1,30,261 COVID-19 cases till date. A note is circulating in the media that says a COVID-19 monitoring committee has been formed and has been identified as fake. The Union Ministry of Home Affairs has clarified that no such committee has been set up by the ministry. The Ministry of Home Affairs has urged people to beware of fake news and rumours. And up next, we'll take a look at global updates on COVID-19. Coronavirus has claimed the lives of over 5.58 lakh people worldwide, while over 1.24 crore people have contracted the infection so far. With more than 31.82 lakh cases and over 1.33 lakh deaths, the US continues to be the world's worst affected country in terms of COVID-19 infections and fatalities. Brazil comes in at the second position with over 18 lakh infections and 70,398 deaths. Now, talking of death toll worldwide, US and Brazil are followed by United Kingdom with 44,735 fatalities, further followed by Italy, Mexico and France. The World Health Organization on Friday acknowledged Mumbai's efforts to contain the outbreak of COVID-19 in Dharavi, India's largest slum. In a tweet, the World Health Organization recognized many countries and potential hotspot regions like Vietnam, South Korea and Dharavi in Mumbai for using different methods like testing, contact tracing, isolation and timely treatment of the infected to break the chain of transmission. Dharavi was a hotspot in June but has seen a sharp drop in the cases in July. WHO Chief Tedros Ghebreyesus said that Italy, Spain, South Korea and Dharavi have showed that the virus can be reined in through aggressive action. And the World Health Organization has sent experts to China in an effort to start an investigation into the origin of coronavirus pandemic. They will work with Chinese scientists to determine the investigation scope and itinerary. A team consisting of an animal health expert and an epidemiologist arrived in Beijing yesterday to determine the logistics, targets and participants for examining the origins of the virus as well as how it spread. WHO spokesperson said that the major issue will be to look at whether or not it jumped from species to humans and what species it jumped from. Initial reports suggested that the virus originated in a wildlife wet market in Wuhan in China, with the virus transmitting from bats to other mammals and finally human beings. All India Tiger Estimation has set a Guinness World Record for being the largest camera trap wildlife survey. Paired camera traps at 26,760 different locations have generated approximately 35 million photographs, including 76,523 tiger and 51,337 leopard photographs. India is home to 60% of the global tiger population, which is reflective of India's conservation initiatives that are thoroughly grounded by science and backed by legal and financial framework. The fourth cycle of All India Tiger Estimation shows a rise in tiger estimates. From 2006 to 2018, an annual growth rate of 6% in tiger population has been observed due to sustained protection and other management interventions by the states steered by the National Tiger Conservation Authority. Lauding India's achievement, Union's Environment Minister Prakash Javadekar has tweeted, And I quote him, he says, under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, India fulfilled its resolve to double the tiger numbers 4 years before the target through Sankalp Se Siddhi. All India tiger estimation is now in the Guinness World Record for being the largest camera trap wildlife survey. A great moment indeed and a shining example of Atmanirbhar Bharat. And to talk us and to give us more on that, our correspondent Tapas is joining us. Tapas, India is home to 60% of the global tiger population, and we've seen an increase in the tiger population. Added to that, All India tiger estimation is part of the Guinness World Record as well. So a double delight?
Absolutely, a double delight, and the way the way Prime Minister Narendra Modi earlier has said that it is high time that we double the tiger count. In fact, he once said that "Ek tha tiger se tiger zinda hai," the famous quote that he gave, and that's actually a amazing comeback for India's tiger population. Remember 2006, if I give you an estimation, 2006 that number of tiger was 1,411. 2010 it was 1,706. 2014 and 18, it has rose exponentially. In fact, 2014 it was 2,226, and in 2018, the last survey, it was 2,967. And the way we can say right now that the trappings that have taken place, it has shown that India has once again taken a lead in its program of tiger conservation. Remember, as I said earlier, also the tigers are basically at the top of the food chain. This top predator is at the top of the food chain, and if you want to really work hard on climate preservation, biodiversity, and afforestation of the forest, it is imperative that you maintain the top of the food chain of the food ladder. So, in that sense, tigers population, the growth of tiger population is a huge achievement for India as well as for the world. In fact, India is showing the world leading from the front in tiger conservation. In fact, 70% of tigers population is currently in the country. And if just give you a small example, that in India, in the Saint Petersburg Declaration has said that in 2010 that they will lead from the front, and they will actually will double the numbers in 2022. That actually has come true, and India has managed to fulfill its promises in the Saint Petersburg Declaration, and that's some of the reason why India is leading from the front. Now, talking about the tiger conservation and the trapping of the Tiger the Fourth, this is going to be a marker basically for the 2022 tiger estimation that we are going to see. The last tiger estimation happened in 2018, and at that time effective camera trap was set up at around 1,21,337 square meter of area, and almost 26,838 trap location was set up. But this is going even further than that, and that's one of the reason why you can say this is a Guinness World Record, in terms of creating so much of a camera trap system, so much of going out of the way to make sure that India's idea of the Saint Petersburg Declaration, the way India gave a clarion call on that day that we will double the tigers population, has actually come true. So in that sense, a huge day for India and a huge day for people who are working in the national tiger conservation efforts.
Yes, thank you so much, Tapas, for joining us with those inputs. So pleasant news coming in there when we talk of India's conservation efforts and the aim of doubling the tiger numbers. And from here we get to another important breaking news. In a major incident, 6 NSCN-IM cadre were gunned down in Longding district of Arunachal Pradesh. The operation is being carried out by Assam Rifles and Arunachal Pradesh Police. More details are awaited. Sudhakar Das is joining us to get us more on that. Sudhakar, spell out more details. 6 NSCN-IM cadre were gunned down in Arunachal Pradesh.
Yes, Preeti, based on some specific intelligence inputs regarding presence of armed insurgents of NSA and IM today morning, the Assam Rifles and the Arunachal Police launched a combing operation in Khonsa area, which falls in Tirap district of Arunachal Pradesh, and it is adjacent to Assam's Tinsukia district, around 50 kilometers from east of Tinsukia. And around 4:30 a.m. today morning, an operational contact was established with the NSCM insurgents in this area. And during the firefight, six insurgents were neutralized. And after this firefight, the force also recovered 6 weapons along with warlike stores. One brave, according to the information from Arunachal Police and Assam Rifles, one brave Assam Rifle soldier was also injured in the operation.
All right, Sudhakar, I'll interrupt you here. We'll go across to DGP Arunachal Pradesh, Mr. R.P. Upadhyay, to talk more about it. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on DD News. First, I would want you to get us the details of the incident. 6 NSCN IM cadre were gunned down in Arunachal Pradesh.
Actually, working on a very specific information, a joint operation was carried out by Arunachal Police and Assam Rifle today early in the morning around 4:30 a.m. And 6 of the NSCN IM cadre have with heavy weaponry, 4 AK-47, 2 assault rifle, and more than 500 rounds, 2 IEDs have been recovered. So all of them are killed after heavy exchange of fire. And one of our Jawan from Assam Rifle, he also got a gunshot injury on the leg. He has been taken to the hospital. Operation is still on because combing operation is being done in the jungle area. This area is quite remote. It is around 3 hours journey from district headquarters and 1 hour foot trek.
Is there more estimation of more cadres being involved, or more cadres being expected to be found?
For that, we are trying to cordon off and search the nearby areas. But the jungles forest area is huge in Arunachal, so it will take some time.
All right, that brings me to the
rule
next
out.
question. Let us know more about the topographical details of the Longding district of Arunachal Pradesh, wherein this operation was conducted.
It is on the eastern. It is the easternmost district of India. In fact, it is bordering Myanmar and on one side and Nagaland on one side. And area is geographically quite tough. This place, which has where the encounter took place, is connected through road from district headquarters Longding. It is a place called Ninu. It is village Ninu. It is in the road.
Yes.
From there is another 40-minute trek in the thick forest.
So it is densely forested area.
Yes.
All right, sir. Also, for our viewers who are joining us late, this was what we tell our viewers, that 6 NSCN IM cadre were gunned down in Longding district of Arunachal Pradesh. And also we have joining in DGP Arunachal Pradesh, who tells us that the operation is still on. Sir, let us know what all has been recovered from the slain cadre.
So far, 4 AK-47 rifle, 2 MQ-81 assault rifle, 2 hand grenades, 2 IEDs. The IEDs are in a tiffin box, and CFSL team is reaching on the spot. We might recover few more weapons.
And how do you read how important and significant has been this gunning down of the cadre?
See, according to information with us, they were trying to target some security forces and also to kidnap some important person for ransom. And kind of weaponry and ammunition we have recovered, it is a very important catch.
Yes, and that was the input given by Mr. R.P. Upadhyay. He is the DGP Arunachal Pradesh, and he told us about what all has been recovered from the slain NSCN IM cadre. 6 of them who were gunned down in Longding district of Arunachal Pradesh. The operation is still on. We'll keep you updated, and let's get to other important news. In a major success for security forces, the army foiled an infiltration attempt by Pakistan along the line of control today. 2 terrorists were eliminated in the exchange of fire after a suspicious movement was detected by Indian troops at Nogam sector of Kupwara district. 2 AK-47 and warlike stores have also been recovered. And a massive fire broke out at Indraprastha shopping centre in Borivali in the early hours today in Mumbai. As per officials, smoke logged in the entire basement and 3 upper floors. 8 fire tenders, 10 jumbo tankers and ambulances were rushed to the spot. Rescue operation is underway. No casualties have been reported so far. That's it in this edition of the News Sasa. Thanks for watching. Namaskar.